And hello good people of Patreon, and welcome to Rossmore Forest Park, which is in County Monaghan. And this is a good bit away from me, well, relatively speaking, it's a good bit away from me because I live in Ireland. And but if you live in the States, then everywhere in Ireland is quite close. It's about an hour away from where I live, as opposed to I usually only go about 20 minutes, half an hour. And it's in a town I used to live in when I was about 20. And there's a video coming up where I talk about going back and kind of doing things that I'd done previous in my life, almost like an echo in it or thing. You'll see the video and I'll explain more. But since I'd done that video, I thought the kind of process was over, but it turned out it wasn't, because I was at it again today where I was going around old haunts, doing things, even had an exact same lunch from the same shop that I had when I lived here 20 years ago, oh my. So anyway, what this is about, this video, this is in place or in the stead of the study group stuff that we were doing, because I just wanted to use this week to use the time that I would normally use in the study group to do something else. So it wouldn't fall under the study group things. It's basically me going to be talking about myself. It's the real Reiki Diaries, some of the kind of magic that was going on behind the Reiki stuff that I didn't talk about on the YouTube channel. So if you're not interested in my life, this video is not for you. Next week, all going to plan, we'll be starting the runes, which we'll be doing for about a month. And I'm looking forward to that. I have some notes drawn up already and I have my mind kind of getting around it a bit. I know what way it's going to be laid out, but that's next week. So basically, what I want to talk about is there was a couple of kind of insights and a couple of things that arose when doing the Reiki. And the first thing I want to make a kind of big point out is that it's, strictly speaking, what your one does, the healer, it's probably not Reiki. The actual healing bit of it itself, the actual thing, is probably Reiki. But there's a session before and after, which is kind of, it's almost like she does a reading, a psychic thing. And even in the actual Reiki itself, there's more than just what you get from traditional Reiki, Usui Reiki, that kind of stuff. Now, I have never met anyone who practices Reiki who doesn't do some sort of spin on Reiki, some sort of thing that they add in themselves, either be that like with angels, ascended masters, or guides and helpers and all of these things, or something. Now, I'm sure there is people who just do strict traditional Usui Reiki because, you know, some people are like that, and I understand that. But I'm totally okay with the whole woo-woo-ness of adding all of these things, because I said if I'm going to engage with this stuff, I'm going to just go with whatever's presented to me. And then come out of it and look back and see what's useful, what's not. You know, chaos magic, the thing out of it. So there's a couple of stuff that came up that I found very interesting, and some of it I don't really know how to process. Some I don't know if I believe. Some I don't know whether it's not like a screen memory, but a screen or a representation of something else, maybe a symbol for something else. So I don't know. So I'm just going to talk about it as is, and then my kind of feelings around it and stuff. One of the early things that came up, one of the early things was a lineage ancestral thing that came up around my grandfather on my maternal side. Now, my grandfather on my maternal side died before I was born, so I never had any bond with him, never even considered him in any of my workings, my ancestors' work that I did, that big ancestral work stuff that I did a couple of years ago. It just wasn't part of the kind of the landscape of what I did or any of that. So it was interesting that he came up, and he kind of came up in a way that, in a sense, I'll start from here. Not all my life, for the last while, I have had this kind of experience where noise has felt violent, like I'm being hit. So loud noise feels like I'm actually physically being hit. It's to a kind of, so much so that I feel like I have a kind of a PTSD, but I'm not sure what the trauma is. So I don't think it's not PTSD, but I just cry, and I'm not I know PTSD is a kind of a word that people use for all sorts now, and I understand there's a real thing, and it's a way of describing it. So please don't judge me or feel bad about me using that word. There was, however, a trauma that I had when I was quite young, when I was about 11 or 12, and I got badly beaten up by a group of people. And I talk about that in another video that's coming up, so I'll not go too much into that. But for a long while after that, I found it very hard to be outside and very nervous being in public places. And I think rather than getting over that, I think I kind of incorporated that into my life. And so I'd say a lot of my social anxiety comes from that. I'm not sure if my introvertness comes from that as well, because that would kind of see that there's something wrong, and I don't think it is, because even before that, as a child, I was very introverted. So I do see my introversion, my extroverted introversion, as a very separate thing from my social anxiety. The introversion is constant, where the social anxiety isn't. It can come and go, and one day I can do something, and the next day I can't even go into a shop. So I'd say there's something in that, but but I'm not sure if that's where this kind of noise is violence, and I feel like I'm about to be hit an awful lot, like as if someone's about to come in the room and hit me, and that's growing a lot worse. But I had that on and off since like the last 20 years. I remember thinking that when I lived in a house with a friend of mine 20 years ago, when I was 21, just before I actually moved to Monaghan, where I am now. So I don't know what that kind of is. And you say, well, what's this about? Well, the interesting thing was what she said, and I didn't mention any of this to her or any of that kind of thing. I did go in initially and said to her, I'm not feeling good. I'm quite down an awful lot of time. And she's, well, that's brilliant, because most people take 5 or 6 weeks before they actually tell me what the reason they're here from. So it's that I was trying to get to the bottom of some of these shadow stuff, or some of these darkness. The darkness, that's what I wanted to get to the bottom. The black dog rubbish. So I hadn't told her anything other than that, so there was no prime or whatever. And she says that my grandfather, I think it was the second episode, I think it was the second session that it all came up about my grand, because I had a pretty tough week after the first week. I'll probably mix up the weeks, so if you look at the other videos and I say this happened in week 3 and it really happened in week 2 or week 1, they're all kind of meshed into one another, and I'm just kind of trying to do it off the cuff here rather than go from notes and stuff, which I don't enjoy doing. So week 2, I think, and it was she says there's a guy here and he doesn't like me. He kept calling her the woman. He was finding that he was very cold and aggressive to her. See what I mean about the psychic kind of reading thing that was going on. And she says she thinks it's my grandfather. Did she initially say it was my grandfather? She says no, it's a lineage thing. It seems to be coming through family. And I originally thought it would have to have been from my father's side, because I have a very kind of troubled relationship with my father's side of the family, in that myself and my dad don't get on. And we kind of haven't really been talking for the last couple of years. And we didn't talk for a long while before as well. And an awful lot of the stuff that I say I dislike about myself, or I feel it's my shadow stuff, is stuff that comes from him, or at least seems to be some sort of lineage thing going on where he got it from his dad and whatever, whether that's learned behaviour or whether there is something to this whole idea of the sins of the father, or the lineage thing because then there's a whole kind of jealousy thing that was massive in my family, and my granddad had it, my dad had it, and I assume my great-granddad had it as well, going by very little I know about him, that I managed to break, and that I definitely don't have that anymore. But there's other things that I don't know. I actually did a podcast all about my dad at one stage that I had to delete because it just caused havoc in my life. Absolutely. In one way, it cut open a huge hole into it that kind of, in one sense, destroyed the relationship with my sister for a while, and then massively repaired it. So I'm glad I did it, but that was a mad thing to do. I was too open about something online, and because you forget that your family can hear these things I do, and it's not just people on the internet. And because my family, while they're all cool and all that, they never really paid attention to an awful lot of what I done, because they weren't into comics, they weren't into the music. Well, they were into music, just not into the music I would have been into, and all that kind of stuff. That you kind of think they're not paying attention. And then when they decided to pay attention, my sister in particular, it was one episode of a podcast where I was talking about my family. Out of all the things I talked, that was the first one she kind of listened to. And so that was fun. Anyway, so I thought the lineage thing would be from my dad's side. So when I came up at my mum's side, I was kind of taken back. Well, I don't know, I've never even considered that. And so she was saying, anyway, the healer was saying that this guy is here, and what he's doing is hitting you on the head or in the face with a big stick. And she was asking, why are you doing that? And he kept saying, I have permission, or something, just saying permission over and over again. Take this for as you will. If you don't believe in the woo-woo this, I'm not sure I do either. I said I would engage it and I'd go with it. So when I feel the noise, the violence, the whole thing that happens, this thing, it feels like it's coming across my eye here. Which is, if you've been following the vlog, you'll see that I had a very mad issue with my eye and a skin kind of outbreak that I thought was shingles, but was something else that comes and goes. It's still not fully healed, but it's not as bad. But I incidentally blazed up almost immediately a couple of days ago when my dad texted me. Like, my wife was like going, because I said, oh, my dad texted me, and she says, your eye is just gone. So there's obviously a stress component in it too. So it kind of feels like the hitting thing is here. And she says, he's hitting you, but it's a begrudgery thing. He's trying to keep you in your place. He's trying to keep you down. He's trying to make sure that you don't feel good about yourself or don't get above your station. And in a sense that his role is to make sure that I don't get ahead of myself or feel good about myself or feel special or those type of things. And it was interesting because the only photo I have of my grandfather is him with my mother, who's quite young, with a big stick over the shoulder. So I thought that was interesting. And when I showed the photo after to the healer, she goes, yeah, well, that's very much the kind of man I had in my head. But there seems to be a thing that it's from his he got it from his dad, he has it, and then one of his sons has it. I again don't want to talk too much about my family because it's not fair, it's not my story to tell, but there seems to be elements of this lineage thing going on. And what happened then in the Reiki session was that it was as if he was stopped from doing this, and I was allowed to feel like that whole episode where I talk about I'm the chosen one, or I'm special, and this whole kind of, to see myself as I'm center of the universe. That's what the episode's called, where I see myself center of the universe. I was allowed to feel what it would be like if I was let go, without inhibitions of who I am as a person, or who I am as a being, or a spiritual whatever I am, and just to see, myself as a cosmic child and loved and amazing and special and powerful and unique. In the kind of, I have to emphasize, in the sense of being more special than other people, not just the kind of, we're all special, every man, one woman is a star, which is another way of saying no one's special, but actually to have the kind of chosen one, that you're the Neo from Matrix. There's something particularly special about me. Now, that was the meditation. I'm not saying there is something particularly special about me, but it was interesting, the contrast between having this kind of dark, never being allowed to even contemplate stuff like that, and being held down and violently, energetically kept away from that, to bouncing to the complete opposite side and feeling that that you could possibly be the Son of God in the David Icke type sense. So what I decided to do with that was that I went to his grave and I had a chat with him, and I bound him, and I put I did a kind of magic thing on it where I put stuff on the grave, and I did some incense things and did some wordy things, and but there was definitely a pictorial sigil type element incorporating the 40 servants and this kind of thing. And I left, and it didn't feel right. It didn't sit right with me. There was something that just didn't, because my whole thing was like, if this is a lineage thing, then I don't want you to go near my son. I don't want that to go any further. Fine if you're attacking me, you're doing stuff, but stay away from my fucking kid, but I still wasn't totally convinced it was him. Because one, was it just a screen memory? Was it just a representation of these type of shadow stuff, just given a form, in the form of my, dead granddad? Was it a thing coming from him? Because it turns out, and I didn't notice, that his father was called Tommy. And it seems that he had a huge falling out with his family and with his brothers. And the home house where my mum grew up, and she grew up in a mountain, and it's like a small little, tiny little house up a mountain. That house was built brick by brick, it said, out of anger. So there's this kind of thing. So all of that I didn't really know, and I didn't feel right. So I ended up going back to the grave, and this was part of this working that I talk about in the other video, and it's about going around and visiting places, or redoing things that you've done in the previous in the past to try and affect change. And this was what was one of the things, was going home to my grandmother's kind of house, that's someone else lives there, and going to the church around, because she lived in a very, very small village, and going to the church and the graveyard and the different type of places around that I wouldn't have been around since I was about 11, 12. And so I brought my son up to the graveyard I want to show my my grandmother, and I've got a cousin who died quite young, who was the same age as me, there, and at the time, and I was, there seemed to be some sort of release by doing that, by showing by I suppose acknowledging the thing to my grandfather as well. And I took the magic stuff back and I destroyed it. And it's because on the way there it was interesting too, because I was driving and there was this big billboard that went up and I was on the way, and it was grave mistake. It was the thing written on it. I went, okay, that might be a sign. So that kind of like the end of that is I don't know, because Gordon White talks about a thing of that, like when you start doing the ancestor work or whatever, it's, you know, it might be just that that's your function in the family because that's what you're into. So it could be my function in the family to try and heal these kind of lineage things. Because I've done a bit on my dad's side, and maybe it's something I have to do on my mother's side as well. So I got a few books. I'm in the middle of reading a few things. Can't remember the name of the book. It was the guy who was on Maroon Soup podcast talking about the ancestor work, and I'm going through kind of that stuff, but it's kind of the energy of it seems to have fizzled a bit, and I'm not really sure what to do. Maybe I'm just concentrating on other things, but I don't know. I do know that when I did the ancestor work before, they didn't care, they didn't connect or whatever. But interestingly, I'm all over the place and I apologize. The night after, or the night of this, you know, she talked about that it was my grandfather, all of that kind of stuff. The night after that Reiki session, I had a dream about my grandparents on my other side, on my dad's side, and they were basically walking down the street, very happy, holding hands, all this time thing, come up to me and said to me, "We want you to know that we have nothing to do with this." That's not, you know, this isn't, as if saying this isn't part of our lineage, this isn't our problems, this isn't our shit, that's someone else's. So I thought that was interesting. So yeah, I did that. There's no kind of end to that as yet, and I still have to work on that. I've his photo up on my wall now as well. I don't have an ancestral altar because I don't know what to do with it. When you started reading that book, the man who wrote it says, don't do anything until you finish the book. So maybe I just have to finish that book first. But as the moment I'm reading about 6 books, it takes me a bit longer to read books than it used to. So the other stuff that came up is this whole idea of being, I've talked a bit about this before, but having a fundamental flaw or something wrong with me that I almost have to be working on. And it comes from the kind of thing of when you're constantly doing shadow work, or you're constantly working on yourself and self-help, and that's been such a prevalent thing in my life since, I don't know, early teens, that you kind of get the impression that there's something wrong with you and not other people, and do you have to work on this, and there's like as if there's something wrong with me. You know, as if I have some sort of mental illness or mental deficiency, or that separates me from other people, and it's a thing that I have to work on. So all the things that are part of me that are faults and that I have to improve, work on to become like other people. And I kind of seen the shamness of that, and you know, I seen the man behind the curtain on that, and I was going like, no, I'm just different from other people, and accepting that I don't view the world in the way most people view the world, and I don't approach the world in the way most people approach the world. And up until very recently, there was a part of me that felt bad about that, or felt I was wrong about that, or felt that that was something I needed to work on. Particularly when I learned about the Myers-Briggs thing, and that's extroverted, introvert, and being an IFJ, and I went, like, that is who I am. And I always thought that was, all of these kind of traits I had were things that were wrong with me, that I had to work on. You know, you have to not be an introvert, you have to work on being an extrovert, you have to steel yourself, you have to improve yourself, work in your darkness so you're not like the person you are. And kind of having this sudden realization, which was then exacerbated by all the Reiki stuff and all of these things coming up, that no, that's who you are. That's not something that's wrong with you. You know, there's no fundamental failing in you or fault, or it's like the dukkha thing of Buddhism. You know, you're not off kilter. There's not a thing in the wheel and the spoke of the wheel that's, you know, making you wobble and stuff like that. That's just who you are, and being different is okay. It makes you life a wee bit harder being an introvert or an extroverted introvert as I am. Because, you know, people think you're weird. And recently I was talking to a friend of mine, and I was saying to him that I'm not getting any time on my own, and my head is just destroyed, and it was really intense. Those, like, the whole 6 weeks of the Reiki, lots of stuff was going on. I got really dark at one point, and he was going, oh, well, I'll tell you what, call round to me tomorrow night and we'll go off and do something. And I was going, no, if I'm going to do something, I'm going off on my own. And he was like, oh, well, that's just really unhealthy. And I was going, fuck you, man. Like, I was really annoyed. Going like, I'm telling you and explaining all these things. This is what I need. This is how I get it. And at the end, it's just like, it's not that they do. And my wife kind of doesn't understand it either. She said, it's not that they don't understand it. They don't believe it, I think. It comes down to, I don't think they believe that someone would need to spend time on their own to... to be able to survive in this place without going nuts, because they're not like that, and they can't fathom a kind of existence that needs that. And kind of my wife, and I understand this, would kind of have the impression that it's she thinks, and she mistakes it, she thinks I need time away from her, and she would kind of, she goes, oh, but sure, I went uptown. I go, yeah, but there's 20 other people in the house. And she kind of mixes up, going, it's not time away from you, it's time on my own, solitude. I need sanctuary. This is why I'm in the middle of a forest, and why I spend so much time in the forest these days. So there's all of it like that, and starting to become okay with that, and not feeling I'm wrong around these things, and not feeling that I'm flawed, fundamentally flawed. And I didn't realise that I thought I was fundamentally flawed. That what I thought who I am as a person was to be shunned, changed, worked on, improved. And, that the kind of the goal of your life was to be this thing and, become normal. And it's funny reading through all the quickening stuff on TikTok. And it was there's a huge part of me just trying to be a good TikTok kind of person. We can see we have a fly on the thing. But so that was brilliant. That would kind of, again, that hasn't fully blossomed out or whatever. But this kind of idea that it's okay to be me. I mean, these are fundamental things that I assume most people kind of worked out early in their lives, but I certainly didn't. Just that idea that that I don't necessarily have to, that there isn't anything wrong with me. And it's like that I'm okay, and just torturing myself to try and be someone I'm not. It's just hasn't done me any good whatsoever. So then there was... I had a couple of just bullet points written down, but my phone switched off. There was this other thing, and this came up, and I was trying to talk to the great Robbie about this, and I think I kind of approached it wrong, because I said there was basically approached it wrong to explaining it to him. At the very beginning when we did the Reiki, she says there was this kind of sense that they were telling her. She talked an awful lot about they were telling her. I don't know who they were. She didn't offer it up, and I didn't ask. I assume just means the other, or her guides, whatever. That I've only very touched the surface of my creativity, that there's a whole lot. And she was showing this whole thing of different layers, whatever. And she says it was like she couldn't fathom it at all, that it was so much wider and more expansive than kind of her view of things, or her kind of thing. She says, but like that I've only touched on that. I go, that's cool. That's the thing. But then it came across that, and there's a thing that Robbie slags me for as well, where he says, that because I keep saying I want to be left alone, but I'm also on the internet talking about things. But it's like, this is kind of being left in alone for me, because it's, you're not here talking to me. And I talked about this before, I don't like talking too much to people physically about this kind of stuff. In fact, I don't. I spent 6 hours with a friend of mine yesterday, travelling to, we were going to get some equipment for him, and we travelled to town over and way back and on. It was about 6 hours in total, and not once did we talk about me. It was the entire 6 hours was about him. And I think it's something, I don't think that's I think most people talk about themselves anyway, but I think I've noticed myself that I deflect questions about me pretty quickly, and I deflect back onto the other person. So we talk about them, because I'm more comfortable at that. Because my main thing when I talk to people is I want to be listened to, and people don't listen to me. They interject and they talk about themselves, or talk about their point of view, or they try to fix it, or they try to solve it, or whatever. And that's not what I want from an interaction. I totally get what I want from an interaction from doing this, because you have no choice but to listen to me. You can interject and tell me I'm wrong, or tell me I'm right, or whatever you want later. But while I'm in the process of talking, and literally, the process is the right word. I process an awful lot of stuff by speaking it out into the world that I don't get allowed to do when I'm speaking to other people. So when the thing is, I want to be left alone. I want to be allowed to have my own thoughts. And I think when I'm talking to other people, I'm not allowed my own thoughts. I'm not allowed to. I kind of can't explain it better than that. That I feel suffocated by other people's thoughts and other people's opinions, and I'm trying to. And it's as if you don't accept other people's opinions or their viewpoints, there's kind of an anger or an aggression that comes from them. Mild, sometimes not, but it's like I don't want to engage with that. I don't want that. Like, keep your stuff. I'll sort it out myself. And if I need help, I'll openly ask people for help. If sometimes I'm not brilliant at it either. So what's that about? So it's like then it came to the point where towards the end, I got going into the last session. I was like as down as I've ever been in my life, ever. Not kidding. Like, really defeated, really sick of it, over it. Didn't want to play the game. Didn't want to fight. Didn't enjoy the game. Don't like this place. For the most of the time, I don't like this place. I find it really, really distasteful, emotionally and physically. And like, the physics of this place really annoys me. I can't explain it other than that. But I was having a really tough time of it. And she was kind of saying, but the problem is, they were telling her that she was saying, as you've only think that things are going to get much bigger for me very quickly or very shortly, and that even like, and in a creative way or whatever it is I'm doing or whatever, but that while that's good, there's kind of, it comes at a cost to me, and the cost is not, my own time, my while it will help other people, it'll kind of damage me in some way. And I was trying to explain that to Robbie, and I think it came out wrong in that it felt that he was getting that it was saying that it was I'm sorry, Robbie, for talking openly about a conversation we had in private messages. Like he was kind of going, well, that's kind of a shitty thing for the Reiki thing to say, it doesn't sound like Reiki. In the context of the thing, it was fine, and I was kind of teasing this out and all that. So if anything, it's me who's wrong, not her. And the thing, see, this leads into this other thing, and it's kind of what happened then. There was the last session was amazing. I was switched off altogether. She said it was like the whole entire room was full of people. There was Buddhist monks. There was all these things. She said, like, it was like, what it is that, I'm just going to say this, and then we'll discuss. But she says, what it is you're not from this place, and because you're not from this place, the energies don't line up, so you're off alignment, and you can't be in alignment because you're not originally from this place. Now, the word Star Child was mentioned from the, and this kind of idea, and I was like, and then I was come back to this kind of chosen one, and it's gone right here. Like, Wilde had said I will engage with it, and incidentally, Stuart Wilde said similar stuff to me 20 years ago as well. There is a thing, and it's totally worth bearing in mind with all of this stuff, is that anyone who does, like, say, any sort of channeling, anyone who does any of these kind of, gets contacted, UFO contacts, these blessed BVMs, Blessed Virgin Mary, all of these things, the message told to the vast majority of them is, oh, you're the chosen one, you're here to do something special, you're here, to lead people, and all of these things, and that's the message, and that has to be taken very much with a grain of salt, because it's mostly bullshit, and that seems to be part of this phenomena, whatever this phenomena is. So I don't think, obviously, I don't think the Reiki teacher, Hila, was having me on or saying these things, whatever. Like, if it's to believe that she has kind of this connection or this psychic thing, whatever. And she's lovely. She's not mental at all. Like, she's really bubbly, really, like, happy kind of thing. She's not weird, or she's not, like, not edgelord or any of these type of things. But so if that was to get the message, that's an interesting thing. That's it's like the thing that's the John D. Edward Kelly stuff, where they're kind of made to be special, but they're totally fucked with, for a long while after. So you could be so easily. I don't know what that is. Now the other thing is that it's with being that it maybe lie mightn't be a right word. I don't know what it is. Whatever the glamour of it, it's interesting because that me not feeling part of this place, feeling different, feeling like I don't like that thing about not enjoying the physicalness of this place is like as if I'm not used to this physics. The gravity seems to not work in the way I want it to, or the way I'm used to. And it's so woo, and I know, I understand that when they say that, oh, I don't think it was actually Star Child. It was like you're from the stars or something like that. And you know, every man, woman is a star, and all this kind of. She didn't get the reference when I said it, and that you're off kilter. And I was, well, that, you know, there's an explanation for it, but I don't like the kind of implications around it or whatever. So anyway, I think it's interesting that if there is a hero's journey in the kind of contact the UFO, Blessed Virgin Mary channeling type thing, you know, the part of the hero's journey where he says no or whatever. This is my bit where I'm saying no, thank you. It's just, you see Buddha on the road, kill him. And I think that if that's possibly what's happening here, in that, you know, if I'm progressing as I hope I am spiritually and all that, then one of the first things to happen is this test, maybe initiation, something. I hate all those words because I don't know if any of that's true. I've been told you're the chosen one, or been told that, you know, there's a plan for you, or whatever it is, those type of things. A rejection of that is definitely a great idea. Brilliant. But the problem is that's coupled with, I also have to work on not thinking I'm flawed, or not thinking, you know, or that not thinking I'm a piece of shit, or being beaten down by my grandfather psychically with a stick. And also that I have to build up myself to the point. But it's balance and all of these things. You know, get yourself to where you're. Bono, of all people, said a really thing that I found quite profound at one time, and he was in a radio a few years ago, and the DJ Dave Fanning said to him, the thing people have an issue with you the most is that people think you're better than everyone else. And he goes, I don't think I'm better than everyone else. I think I'm as good as anybody else. And that kind of struck me as, I don't think I'm as good as everybody else or anybody else. I think I'm lesser than everybody. And I don't mean that in a, like, poor me. And maybe it is feeding into my victim thing that I do have. But I do feel lesser than other people. One of my big shadow things is feeling like I'm trespassing on... it's like, the way I describe it is that I'm like constantly in... When you learn to drive in Ireland, you get a provisional license and you can drive, but you have to have someone who has a full license in the car with you at all times. And I don't know if that's around the world. It seems legitimate enough kind of law. But I spend a lot of time driving on a provisional license with no one in the car, and that's the underlying kind of baseline trespassing thing. But I feel, you know, that you're going to get caught, that the man's coming to the door and going to get you. I feel that about being alive. And I do feel like someone's, you know, that there's people coming to get me. And there's people coming to, you know, I'm going to get caught or something. That's like, even going around these places, whenever I feel like I'm trespassing, I won't feel like they belong to me. And I said that to my mum once. She goes, I totally feel that they belong to me. I don't have that at all. So I don't think it's something I got from her. Maybe I got it from my dad, but it's not something I think he thinks either. But just that I shouldn't be allowed here. Other people are totally allowed to be here. All of the people are here, like anyone else is. It's just something about me, that intrinsic to this fundamental flaw or something that I still probably think I have. But anyway, so she was saying that it's going to get much bigger for you and it'll come at a cost and all these things. That's blended into the, you know, Star Child Chosen One stuff as well. But it kind of got me in a kind of moment where I was very seriously about to delete everything. Websites, YouTubes, Patreons, and all of it. 47s, the whole lot. And like, I mean, not casually thinking about that. Like, actually thinking about that. And over a weekend going, don't do it now. You know, it's not going to, you know, not going to change from one. But it was change, you know, deleting it today or deleting it on Monday, it's not going to make that much of a difference. And, you know, just sit with it a while. But it was kind of, and still when I didn't do that, that wasn't a decision that I'll take on board all of these things and, you know, I'll become the chosen one. It's not that. It's not acceptance of any of the thing. It definitely made me step back. That's why the Facebook went back to friends only. So I pulled out of loads of groups. I changed all my interactions from Facebook group, from Tommy Kelly, my profile, into Adventures in Woo Woo, even in the 47th Facebook group. Pulling into Discord where I can talk to people, you know, people who are into this stuff, rather than, you know, you're seriously thinking about switching the comments off on YouTube. And I don't know, I'm just kind of pulling back in in protection, because there was a huge thing about protection, that I'm not protecting myself, that there's this energy of begrudgery around me and attack, and that I don't protect myself. Like there's this energy, vampiric type energy around me of people taking my energy, whether that's just being the introverted thing or whatever. I know I'm not really explaining all these things too well. I don't really know what the answers are to all of them, so it's just kind of processing, as I say. So yeah, that's all the stuff that was going on. There's kind of getting out in the forest, doing loads of forest magic, loads of things like that. That was a big thing. That really came out of this, connecting with the earth, connecting with this place, rather than thinking this place is an illusion to be shunned, trying to not feel like a trespasser on this planet, trying to connect with it. Been huge. Kind of starting on the ancestor work as well, protecting myself a bit more, that in case something did happen where I took off a bit and there was some sort of level. See, it's the responsibility I don't want. I don't want the responsibility for other people, and that's why I really dislike when people, the Brazilian group do it more than the English speaking group, treat me like a teacher, and I'm not a teacher. I don't fucking know enough to be a teacher. I'm not qualified. I don't know enough, and I don't know the answer. I don't even know if magic is a thing or whether it's just a useful idea. And so I don't know. So I don't want to be responsible for someone doing something with their life, or doing something based on an authority for me that I don't possess. Like, I say people like Jason Miller, or Jason Miller would definitely consider himself a teacher and stuff like that. But Gordon White, which also shuns the kind of teacher thing, even though he does have a more of a, fits that role a wee bit better. I think he tries to base it around a community kind of thing as well. But I don't want that responsibility. I don't know if I'm not invincible in this. And I'm talking a lot about Gordon White now, but I'm literally listening to all his podcasts and catching up over the last while, and it's been so it's a lot of his thoughts are in my head. I'm not invincible at all in the way he talks about it. I could very much in this time next year not believe any of this stuff. I'm not even sure if I believe it now. I find it useful now, and I find it interesting, and I'm passionate about it, and that's where the direction I'm heading in and all that kind of thing, but I don't know if it's true. And so the fear or thing of, in a sense, say the YouTube takes off or the podcast gets really popular, whatever, is to be seen as an authority to these things, and I'm not, and I don't want to be seen as that. I don't want that responsibility, because I don't know, and I don't want to be filling people's heads with hope or shitty ideas or useless ideas or wrong ideas or kind of thing based on some sort of authority that I don't have to do it. So I don't know, like obviously all these things are never fully finished and they're all working things. So there's the ancestor thing, I don't know where that's going. There's the Star Child stuff where that can be ignored until it goes away. And then what am I doing? Like, do I want this or not? Like, and but when I say what do I want, why am I doing this? It was to try and sort my own head out. But why do that publicly? Because it doesn't work. I can't sort my head out by talking to this. Or maybe I could, but there's kind of that, having that and putting it up makes it real. Putting it online makes it real. Making, then having the further conversation, getting it out there, being honest. It's kind of like telling the truth, owning up in a sense, being public about it. It's like that. There's something in that. There's a magic in that for me that doesn't happen just writing about it in a diary, or just keeping it to myself, or recording a podcast and never releasing it. It's the releasing it, the putting it out there, is the magic bit, and it's a hugely magic bit. And but I don't know. So that's where the real Reiki dies. I'm sure I'm missing stuff. So until I look at my bullet points to make sure I'm not. Yeah, no, I think that's everything. So yeah, they need to be fixed. The grandfather, the chosen one, and what am I doing? Where am I going? What am I doing all this for? Definitely, 100%. In either the near future or the distant future, I'm going to disappear, and I'm going to not be public, and I'm going to go off and do it. Probably, if it comes to the stage that if I ever became financially independent, I probably would go off and live in the woods, in a cabin in the woods, and not talk to anyone. But maybe I wouldn't like that. I only it's like these fantasies could be better in the head. But I do think I will only do this for a while. Even Stuart Wilde talks about it in his books, and there's particularly the end of Infinite Self, where he goes, I'm out of here after a while. I'm only doing this for a while. Even PewDiePie talks that way. So I don't think I've said it often enough. I think there's a point where you have to do an awful lot of this journey alone, and I don't think you get to do that on YouTube. But I don't think it's today or tomorrow or next year. 10 years, 20 years, something like that. So good people of Patreon, that's 40 minutes of rambling on. I'd say most of you are going, why doesn't he just do the study group and not talk about himself? There was a guy who left Patreon, and you can, if you leave Patreon, you can send me a message to say why you left. And it was funny. And he says, all he did was talk about his fucking life. I thought, well, no, that's what I do. That's who I am. So anyway, hope this wasn't too boring for you, and in some way, I don't know, how would that help you in any way? But if you have any ideas or any thoughts or any considerations or anything, do send them on. And if you've ever come across the chosen one thing, what way did you do it? What way did you deal with it? Just ignore it. I think that's the sensible thing to do. And how did you then incorporate that into also, trying to feel good about yourself or trying to elevate yourself and all that kind of stuff? Ancestor work, what's your deal? Have you come across something like that have done it? Have you that fundamental flaw thing, or is that something that you've experienced? And knowing that you're different and being okay with being different. Not in the, oh, you're weird, man, but in the, I do experience life different than most people I've ever met. And I used to hide that or feel that was wrong or that's not true or that in some way made me special. It doesn't make me, it's not saying it to make special, but it's just a fact. I experience life very different from most people around me. Not most people on Patreon, I would suggest. I'd say we're all quite serious. Could be this fringe dweller thing that Stuart Wilde talks about. Anyway, that's enough rambling for me. Good people of Patreon. Next week, all going to plan, we will start the runes, and then after that, we'll do something else. So, talk to you all soon.